What's up, friends? In this video, I'm going to teach you how to solo. Yes, everybody loves a good keyboard solo, but before we start ripping solos, we have to understand a few key concepts. Let's get to it. First off, your solo has to stylistically make sense. And what I mean by that is, if you're playing a jazz piece of music, then the solo that you're giving needs to be jazz as well, okay? If you're playing a jazz piece, it would be kind of odd for your solo to sound like Dream Theater or Florida Georgia Line or something. I don't know, Katy Perry. Again, your solo has to stylistically make sense. Here's a quick example of that. So we're going to be in the key of C major. And if we're playing some kind of jazz piece, now if we do some kind of solo like that and then we suddenly break out into like something that sounds like it's from the 18th century, that's going to be kind of weird. It doesn't really fit. So make sure that your solos stylistically make sense, okay? Now, to actually teach you how to solo, here are a few concepts. So number one, the quickest and easiest way to get you on your way to soloing is to make your solo just match the harmony, right? Naturally, that has to happen. So let me give you a quick chord progression. We'll go C, D minor, F, back to C. It's just 3 chords. C major, D minor, F major, and then back to C. Okay? A quick thing that you can do is just take those chords and just outline those chords with your solo. So here's an example of how that might sound. So let's keep it jazzy. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and... again. Now, something like that would be really fitting for a jazz solo, right? We're just taking those chords and we're outlining them with our solo. I'm just taking the notes in the chord go to our F, something like that. And beyond that, we can add some more scalar work and use notes that are outside of the chord as well. Now that brings us to our second point. If you want to make good solos, then you've got to know your scales. And I'm not saying know your scales just for scale's sake, right? You're not going to just be randomly doing scales up and down in your solos, at least I hope not. But you want to know your scales so that you know your key signature, so that you know the notes that belong to that key that you're playing in, right? You're not going to just... I mean, you can. You can do that, but it sounds really stale. Scales sound stale if you're just doing them like that. So we want to avoid just going up and down, but implement those notes in a way that actually seems like it makes a bit more sense. And that brings us to point number 3. Not only just knowing your major and minor scales is going to be helpful, but also knowing your pentatonic scale. The pentatonic scale is a fantastic way to get the beginner who does not solo at all to actually begin to play solos. So if you don't know this, the pentatonic scale in C major looks like this. C major pentatonic is C, D, E, G, A. Penta meaning 5. We got 5 notes here. Now, if we were to take that same chord progression and try to make a solo out of it, implementing more of this pentatonic scale would sound something like this. Let's go around one more time. Right, we had plenty of usage of that C major pentatonic scale. We used it over the C chord, of course, and we used it over the F. That makes for a nice harmony there. That F major chord with the C major pentatonic, those notes over it. You can call that an F major 9. We got the 7th and the 9th. Add 6. Okay, so far we've talked about our solos making stylistic sense. Just use the chord tones. That's an easy way to jump into soloing. Also, get a good grasp on your scales, major, minor, pentatonic, otherwise, so that you can navigate around and actually have a little bit of fun with your solos, right? And that's pretty much it so far. Now we want to talk about adding a bit more color to our solos. So we talked about knowing our scales, not only major and minor, but pentatonic also. You got major pentatonics and minor pentatonics. But also we can add a bit more color. So we can implement some blue notes, right? We can take our blues scale and we can implement some of those notes into our solo as well. So still, we're taking that same chord progression, C major, D minor, F, back to C. So let's add some color. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. Right, we can add some of those blue notes and really make it feel a little bit more alive. You get some more tension when you add those blue notes, and then you finally get to your resolving chords. If you've watched any of my recent videos, you might have noticed that I've been playing on a different keyboard for this video, and that's because I just got this Fesley FEP 760, and I really enjoy this board. First of all, it is so much lighter than any of the boards that I've played on in like the last 10 or 15 years. It's super light, but it does boast hammer action, hammer weighted keys, and we've got a full key bed. We got all 88 keys on this keyboard as well. I'm using it primarily as a MIDI controller right now because I just like the sound of the MIDI keyboard over anything else that I'm playing on. But this is how it sounds coming straight out of the board. So if you're looking for a great low-cost keyboard that is packed with a lot of fantastic features, then go ahead and give this one a look. That's the Fesley FEP 760. It's a great board, great for a beginner or an early learner. It's great to even just have in your home studio, in your living room, in your back room, something. It really is built to be beautiful, and it's not too bad sounding either, okay? So let's get back to the lesson. I know that we've just been dealing specifically within like the jazz genre, but we can still take these concepts and apply them to other genres as well. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's go to the R&B genre and we're going to change keys as well. Let's go to E flat major. And a common chord progression in R&B is a 6, 4, 1, 5 chord progression. So let's do that. Now, we don't want it to just be stale, right? So we got to expand our harmony just a little bit, make our chords, our harmony just a bit more interesting. So instead of just doing these regular 3-note chords, let's make them 4-note chords or 5-note chords even, right? We want to make them sound a little bit larger than life. Okay, we're not just doing these 3-note chords. We want to expand them a little bit more, make it more interesting, okay? So same thing here applies. When you're playing a solo, make sure that it stylistically makes sense. Within the genre of R&B, we get a lot of passing tones, we get arpeggios even, but it's supposed to just make you feel good. A lot of the content about R&B has to do with love and relationships and all of that. So it really is a sultry genre. So you want to make your playing sound sultry as well, right? All right, so what happened there? So I was stuck to the chord progression, of course, right? Our 6, 4, 1, 5, C minor, A flat, E flat to B flat. But in that, the solo that I took, I didn't plan any of that, but the solo that I played there, a lot of that was just something that I thought could be sung. So here's another concept for you. When you're coming up with a solo, especially on the spot, this is all improv, right? That's the nature of soloing too. When you are coming up with a solo, it's oftentimes a good idea to solo what you think can be sung. Okay? If you're just doing a bunch of arpeggios and runs and this and that, like that's cool if you want to just show off. But if you really want your solo to be impactful and make a good impression on your audience, then try to make your solo singable. So I'm going to play over that chord progression again, and this time I want you to think about singing the melody that I'm playing here. I'm telling you, if you can come up with a good solid melody on the spot, that is going to make for such a good solo. And of course, you can add all the flashy stuff in there too, but that melody is what is going to stick. That melody is what's really going to impact your listener, right? And that was our next tip, okay? Think about finding a pattern and repeating that at various places in your solo. That is a great way, again, to just impact your listener, man. You really want them to feel good about the music, especially when it's a feel-good genre like R&B. So we've talked about a lot so far. We talked about stylistically making your solos make sense according to the genre that you're playing in, right? We talked about a slew of different scales. Of course, major, minor, your pentatonics as well, your blues scales. Guys, it's just a matter of knowing the key signature that you are living in. Really, once you have a good grasp on that, I'm telling you, that's going to just take you so much further than just trying to figure out, oh, let me just play these notes and read this sheet music or something. I don't know. It's really going to unlock your creative mind once you grasp that simple fundamental concept of knowing the key signature that you're playing in, okay? And then beyond that, you just want to think about adding color, okay? Of course, use your flash, use the flair and the glitz and glam of your ornaments, like your grace notes and your big arpeggios and things like that. But again, you really want to make sure that your solo impacts the listener by being singable as well, okay? If you can come up with a good melody on the spot, then again, that's gonna put you so far ahead in the solo realm, all right? I know that everybody, well, maybe not everybody, so many people wanna play like Jesus Molina and Corey Henry and Jordan Rudess and these guys that just shred and they really just rip and it's amazing, but not every solo calls for that, okay? Most solos don't call for that. That's great, you know, if you, again, just want to show off a little bit, that's totally cool, that's totally fine, but that is not the purpose of this video, okay? Learn these fundamental things, and I'm telling you, as you continue to practice, it is going to develop so much over time. But you gotta practice, okay? There's no shortcut for time spent in the practice room, okay? So that's all I got for you in this video. As always, I'm Dion, and I'll see you in the next video.